Welcome to the Carriker Chronicles, the people show, checking the pulse of Husker Nation. Ladies and gentlemen, this show is my thoughts on Nebraska's quarterback situation, and it's one of the more unique situations I think I've ever seen. Okay, and this was one of the more interesting shows I've ever had to prepare for. I'll just flat out say it was challenging. It's one of the most challenging shows I've done in quite a while. But before I dive into it and light this candle, all right, ladies and gentlemen, if you are like me and you think that Nebraska should focus on running the football, playing great defense, play the field position game, and prioritize plays that will take care of the ball, and also maybe get back, like we did early on this year, to focus on trying to be the better second half team, which we did at the beginning of the year, but we have not done in a while, hit that like button. Now, real quick, our next opponent, Wisconsin, and I don't even want to talk about how they've lost 3 in a row, because Michigan State had lost 6 in a row, and Maryland had lost 4 in a row. Now Wisconsin's lost 3 in a row. 2 of those games are to Northwestern, and maybe the worst team in the Big Ten, which is Indiana. And during that 3-game stretch, they're only averaging 11.3 points per game. I don't even want to bring that up, but here's why I do. When I watched Wisconsin play Northwestern, and I watched them lose to Indiana, they kind of look like they've quit to me just a little bit. And that's why I bring up the second half thing. This is Wisconsin. More often than not, they push us around in the second half. I get that. But we need to get back to what was working at one point in the season for us. And I kind of watch Wisconsin, and they kind of look like a team who's quit a little bit. And it might be a good idea for us, a team who has a lot to fight for, our first bowl game in up teen years, to maybe test their will a little bit. Because when I watched our team on Saturday, as ugly as it was, I saw a fight in our guys. We just got to do some things differently, obviously. All right, now the Huskers ran 61 plays on Saturday, 21 passes, 40 runs. That's just under a 2-to-1 run-pass ratio. I'll be honest with you. That's not high enough in my opinion. We need to have a higher run-to-pass ratio than that. And here's a great example of why. 4 of our 21 passes were intercepted. That's nearly 1 out of every 5 times we drop back to throw the ball. Okay, we give it away to the other team. So let me rephrase what I just said a minute ago. If you would love it like I would if our coaches understood that our offense is just not good, and if they game planned and managed the game accordingly, okay, smash that like button. All right, now, as I mentioned, this is easily one of the toughest shows I had to prepare for all year because there's no good answer. There's no reliable answer. There's no trustworthy answer. We don't really, it's what would I do with the quarterback situation. It's my thoughts on the quarterback situation that Nebraska has kind of created in of itself, but that they have. There's no reliable quarterback whatsoever. I've seen other teams who've had their starter go out and have a better quarterback situation than this. I've seen other teams who've had their first stringer and their second stringer and be down to their third stringer and have more trust that their third stringer is just going to take care of the ball and manage the game. We have all 3 of our top 3 quarterbacks. And I don't think a whole lot of Husker fans have faith in our quarterbacks individually or collective as a unit put together that they're going to take care of the ball. Just take care of the ball. All right, now, only Iowa has seen as, how do I put this, bad a quarterback play, tumultuous, up and down. I'm not trying to throw anyone under the bus. It just is what it is. Facts don't care about your feeling. Only Iowa has seen some of the crazy stats from their quarterback position that Nebraska has seen from some of their quarterbacks this year. Now, when Cade McNamara went out there, the Michigan transfer who went to Iowa, Iowa's quarterbacks were completing for a good amount of game stretch less than 40% of their passes. It was like 38% or something like that. But they have a great defense and a great special teams. They manage the game and they don't turn the ball over. Okay? I do think our coaches do need to be held accountable. Okay, they need to be held accountable because the common denominator is not Jeff Sims, Chubba Purdy, and Heinrich Harburg. The common denominator is the guys who are coaching them, in my opinion. Now, all 3 quarterbacks combined last game were 10 of 21 passing, less than 50%, 86 total passing yards between the 3 of them put together, 0 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. That's the group effort the quarterback room put out on Saturday. Now, I've mentioned, what if Casey Thompson or Logan Smothers hadn't transferred in the past? But I was reminded by a good buddy of mine, Adam, what about Richard Torres? That guy had a big arm, and he could run fairly well. He was skinny. He needed to get in the weight room. But that guy had big upside, and he transferred too. That's kind of why I say this quarterback situation was kind of created by Nebraska itself and its coaches. Now, a friend texted me that Nebraska's offense, in this later on in this same text, a friend texted me that Nebraska's offense has scored 22 touchdowns this season, okay, and has lost 25 turnovers. Now, when I looked it up, it said we'd lost 27 total turnovers this year, okay, 14 interceptions and 13 fumbles. Either way, that's just plain awful, as we all know, okay? Now, the Huskers have the second worst turnover margin in the entire country at minus 14. Temple's at minus 18. Oh, dear Lord. I'm going to pray for you, Temple fans. I just feel sorry for you. All right, now, I wasn't going to share this, but kind of going back to the Iowa thing, it just is what it is. Makes me want to vomit. But this is via Huskers on Twitter. This is one of his tweets, and I'm going to read another one right after this about Jeff Sims. He said, two-loss Iowa is the greatest statistical anomaly of all time. 4 incredible stats. Number 1, they have completed more than 15 passes in a game once. 18 of 33 versus Utah State. This is going into this last weekend of games prior to this past Saturday. They have twice, okay, had twice as many games completing 50% or less of their passes 6 times than over 50% of their passes 3 times. 25% of their 166 total points have come on field goals. Kicker Drew Stevens is the leading scorer on the team, averaging 6.4 points per game. The team averages 18.4 points per game. They have rushed for over 200 yards once and under 100 yards 4 times. Like, seriously, I think I just vomited in my mouth. But did you hear the first part of that tweet? 2-loss Iowa. That was the part that stuck out to me. All right, the next tweet I'm going to read, again, via Huskers, this is pertaining to Jeff Sims. Okay? Jeff Sims has thrown 47 passes this season and 6 interceptions. That means 13% of the time his passes end up in an interception. On 32 carries, he has 3 fumbles. That's 9 turnovers on 79 plays. A turnover every 10 snaps. And then he finishes the tweet by saying, I've never seen anything like it. I actually did some math. It's a turnover more than every 10 snaps, actually. But I digress. Now, a fan did send me this, so I looked up Huskers stuff. I had a friend text me some stuff, and a fan sent me this. I do pay attention. I love to interact with the people. All right, a fan sent me this next info a week, maybe 2 weeks ago. Now, I did double check it and verify it. Since 2004, Nebraska has a turnover margin of minus 111. The next closest Power 5 team is minus 61. Nebraska has the fewest turnover gains, 362, tied with Maryland. Now, again, this was a week or 2 ago, and frankly, I didn't feel like updating those stats. But something tells me Maryland has now forced more turnovers than we have since then. All right, now let's get to the quarterback situation itself and my thoughts on what I would do. I put myself in Matt Rule and Marcus Satterfield's shoes. I didn't create this situation, okay? But I'm going to put myself in it. And I'm going to get to what I think I would do the best thing that can be done in this situation. And there's no easy answer. But here's what Matt Rule said on how he'll handle Nebraska's quarterback situation going forward. And I quote, "We want to have somebody get the main reps and someone get the second best reps and go from there. But I would be lying to you if I told you I knew who that was going to be right now," end quote. And here's why this is one of the hardest shows I've ever done. I even thought about not doing it. But ladies and gentlemen, I have no idea what the right answer is because there is no good answer. But I'm doing this show, and you know why? Because I don't duck nothing. That's not how I roll. Here's what I do. I don't choose topics based on what's easy. I don't do it based on what other people are saying or not saying. I don't care about being better or worse. I like to be unique and different, and then people can decide whether it's better or worse. I choose topics based on what the people show, right? I choose topics based on what I think the people will find the most interesting. And then I just do the best I can from there. So here I go. Nebraska's quarterback situation. All right, first off, we have 3 quarterbacks who've all shown flashes of what they can do at times. If we're honest, they've shown flashes of what they can do in a positive sense. Haarberg looked pretty decent the first few games he started. I know, not Power 5 teams, but you got to start somewhere. Okay, Sims had the offense moving better on Saturday versus Maryland than it had moved the ball earlier in the game with Haarberg. Okay, Chuba Purdy had a great long drive going before the interception at the end of the game. Obviously, okay, how do I put this? Sims and Harburg, and you got to put Purdy in this too, even though his limited reps, they're way too much like Santa Claus when it comes to taking care of the football. They just give it away way too much. You got to be a lot more like the Grinch. Bah, humbug. Hold on, that's that Scrooge guy. You get my point. The Grinch, Scrooge, you got to be more selfish and keep it to yourself. So here's my thoughts. I expect some fun comments, maybe some negative comments to what I propose, to what I think Nebraska should do for their quarterback position for two reasons, and that's okay. Dare to be different. One, I'm going to propose a 2-quarterback system for the last 2 games, or at least going into Wisconsin, for this week, going into Wisconsin, 1 week at a time. Why? Because there's not one single quarterback that we can trust. Okay, you'd be a fool to think we could go into this game thinking we can trust one quarterback. All right, a 2-quarterback system utilizes each quarterback's strengths more. And it allows you to hide their weaknesses as well, because whatever they're not good at, the other guy can hopefully complement that when he's on the field. So you can use their strengths more and hide their weaknesses a little bit. Also, it lessens the amount of plays each quarterback has to learn. So hopefully it's easier, they can play faster, and they can take care of the ball more. If one quarterback gets hot, then you can roll with them. And if one quarterback struggles, another quarterback has also had a bunch of reps in practice, and they can step up. Now, we have been told that Jeff Sims and Chuba Purdy in the past, especially when he played a year ago, were very excitable, borderline frantic in the huddle. As a former quarterback myself, and I don't know if I've mentioned this in a while on this show, I was much higher recruited as a quarterback than I was a defensive end. Nebraska flat out told me I wasn't good enough to play defensive end in Nebraska. Okay, Oregon State offered me as a quarterback. Mike Bellotti at Oregon offered me as a quarterback. Like, okay, obviously I didn't play it in college, but I have some experience there. The less you have to learn, and this is just common sense, but especially at a very fast position where everyone's trying to rip your face off and you got to make quick, fast decisions with thousands of people watching and everything you do analyzed. The less you have to know, the less you have to learn, okay? It's going to ease that pressure off a little bit of a couple of guys who've shown that they're fairly excitable in the huddle in the past. Now, the other reason I may get some negative comments to this is one of the quarterbacks I'd have in the game plan is Chuba Purdy. Pause for effect. Now, he's had the least amount of reps, right? Least amount of experience. He's the biggest unknown. I readily admit that. You know what else I see? He's also the biggest hope for the best upside because we don't know what exactly it is that he can do and what he's capable of, like we do when it comes to Harburg and Sims. We know what their upside is. We know what they're capable of. We know where the peak of the mountain is, at least for this year. Also, I will readily admit, Purdy did not look good last year when he got a chance in the games. Now, freshman a year ago. It's a year older, a year later, okay? Hopefully he's grown and matured. I know that. I'd love it if we ran the ball 80% of the time the next 2 games, to be clear. If we had an 80% run-to-pass ratio, 80-20, I'd love that. Now, you do got to pass the ball 20% of the time, or 10, or whatever it is. I don't really trust the other 2 quarterbacks to do that. I'm sorry. Okay. He is our best passer. Rule has said he's our best pure passer. He's the only one who gives us a chance. Okay. The other 20% of the plays, if that is the run to pass ratio, to realistically pass the ball well at all. At all. No disrespect to the other 2 guys. I actually love the way Harburg plays. I love his attitude and effort still. All right. Harburg or Sims is the other quarterback. That's now the other question. Adam, you got a 2-quarterback system. Don't like it. Well, it's what I propose. Adam, one of them's Chuba Purdy. He's got little to no experience. That's what I'm rolling with because we don't know what he can do. Maybe that's good. Maybe that's bad. I don't know. Let's find out. I have too many answers to questions of the other guys, and I don't like the answers too often at the time. Not all the time. Now, assuming Harburg is healthy, because if he's not, then the other guy is automatically Jeff Sims, right? Okay. In his 2-quarterback rotation. My initial thought was to make it Sims as the other quarterback in this rotation because he did move the ball better on Saturday, okay, versus Maryland than Harburg did. So like I said, my initial reaction was to go with Sims, but did you hear his turnover stats that I read from that at Huskers tweet earlier? By the way, give them a follow on Twitter and Facebook, at Huskers. He averages a turnover at least, if not more, 1 every 10 plays. At least Harburg had a couple of early games where he took care of the ball. So I'd have to have Haarberg and Purdy as the two main quarterbacks. Purdy gives us the chance to pass the ball, the best opportunity whenever we do pass it. And Haarberg at least had a couple of games early on where he did take care of the ball. Okay, even came out of the huddle, I think his first start, yelling, "Take care of the effing ball," or something like that. Okay, now, so I'd have Haarberg and Purdy, the two main quarterbacks, getting reps in practice this week, and then whoever practices better this week starts in the game. Now, this also allows Jeff Sims reps at wide receiver, maybe. He's a great athlete. He's obviously not a quarterback, and he's just standing on the sideline. Trick play, maybe? I don't know. All right. If you're building towards the future, and we know we are, these are also the two younger quarterbacks as well. Now, Haarberg, okay, again, his series of plays, which should now be condensed for him, easier to learn, I think it should be 80% run, 20% pass at the most. Okay, Purdy's series of plays, he can run 60-40, 60% run, 40% pass. If you want to do 70-30, I'm fine with that, but I would not go over 50-50 run-to-pass ratio in his series of plays. Now, for me, here's what I'm looking for from our quarterback this Saturday. Who can execute the simple things? Who can put guys in motion without snapping the ball and hitting the guy in motion? Who can turn around and just simply hand the ball off? And no, I'm not making fun of anybody. These are issues we've had throughout this year. Who can just manage the game and not turn the ball over? I mean, I was going to start out this video talking about Wildcat. I was going to start out this video talking about Emmett Johnson, who averaged 4.9 yards per carry, basically 5 yards per rush last Saturday versus Maryland. Let's just put him in the shotgun for a half dozen to a dozen plays. Let him catch the ball and run with it, like a middle school offense. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I mean, it's serious. But I know Matt Rule's not going to do any of that, and that's fine, okay? I fully expect all sorts of responses to my ideas in this video, both positive and negative. What I'd say is don't be that person who only rejects ideas but never offers any ideas of your own. Put yourself in my shoes like I tried to put myself in the coach's shoes. So here are my 3 questions for you. Number 1, would you go with one main quarterback or plan on rotating 2 quarterbacks versus Wisconsin? Number 2, if you'd rotate 2 quarterbacks in our next game, who would be the 2 quarterbacks in your 2 quarterback rotation? Number 3, regardless of how many quarterbacks you'd plan on playing in the next game on Saturday, whether it's 2 or 1, who would be your starting quarterback? All right, do me a favor, subscribe to this YouTube channel. If you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe button. Go Big Red Nose. Remember, throw the bug.